Officer Liam Coleman had always thought of a routine traffic stop as just another day on the job, until he heard the faint whimper from the back seat. His heart skipped a beat. When he glanced in, his stomach dropped. There, trembling uncontrollably in the back, was a small puppy. His face paled. What had happened to this tiny creature to make it so terrified and broken? Each day, Officer Liam Coleman patrolled the quiet roads of Ridgefield, a peaceful town nestled between rolling hills and dense woods. Known for his sharp instincts and unwavering dedication, Liam had dealt with his share of strange traffic stops, but this one was unlike any he had encountered. Not in his wildest dreams had he expected what was about to unfold on that crisp autumn afternoon. It all began with a fleeting spark of suspicion. A rusted blue sedan screeched through a stop sign, its tires skidding lightly on the wet asphalt. Liam parked a short distance away, instinctively reaching for his siren and lights. He'd seen countless traffic violations in his time, but this car? It carried something more, a sense of urgency that he couldn't shake. As he moved to pull it over, his hand hovered over his holster, the years of training making him wary. The car stopped, and as Liam approached the driver's side, his gaze locked on the man's tightly clenched hands gripping the wheel. His posture was stiff, his eyes avoiding contact. There was something about him, something that screamed unease. "Good afternoon," Liam said, his voice steady but firm. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Before the driver could respond, a soft whimper, a high-pitched, desperate cry, drifted from the back seat. It was almost too faint to hear, but then it came again, louder this time. Liam's eyes darted to the back window, his breath caught in his throat. There, curled in the corner of the back seat, was a small, frail puppy. Its fur was matted and grimy, its tiny body trembling like a leaf in the wind. The dog's ribs were starkly visible beneath its thin coat, and its wide, terrified eyes locked with Liam's, silently begging for help. Panic surged through him. What had caused this creature such fear and suffering? And why did the man in the front seem so uncomfortable? "Sir," Liam said, his voice a little sharper now, "step out of the vehicle." The driver hesitated, but only for a moment. His jittery movement spoke volumes, and as he finally opened the door, his eyes darted nervously between Liam and the puppy. "Step to the front of the car, please," Liam instructed, keeping his voice calm but firm. He gestured for the man to place his hands on the hood, a request that the driver reluctantly followed. Liam's eyes remained focused on the back seat. "What's in the back?" he asked, trying to keep the tension out of his voice. "It's just a dog," the man mumbled, his words barely audible. "I was taking it to the shelter." Liam's brow furrowed. Something didn't sit right. He stepped closer, peering through the back window. The puppy whimpered again, retreating further into itself. Its frail body shook violently, its breathing shallow and erratic. The sight tightened Liam's chest. He had seen neglect before, but this was different. This little creature was fighting to survive, and it wasn't just a random act of kindness from the driver. The puppy's coat was patchy and covered in grime, streaks of what appeared to be dried blood marring its fur. A makeshift collar, made from nothing more than twine, was tied tightly around its neck, cutting into its skin. "You were taking it to the shelter?" Liam repeated, his tone now laced with disbelief. "Yes," the man stammered, speaking in a rush. "I found it on the side of the road. I didn't know what else to do." Liam's sharp eyes studied the man closely. The story didn't match his body language. The man couldn't meet his gaze, shifting uncomfortably under Liam's scrutiny. "Do you have any paperwork for the dog?" Liam pressed, already suspecting the answer. "Vaccination records?" adoption papers? The man shook his head quickly. No, like I said, I just found it. Liam's gaze turned steely. Then why is the dog in this condition? If you were helping it, why is it malnourished and injured? The driver's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Liam could see panic rising in his eyes, and it was then that he knew something wasn't just wrong. It was criminal. "Dispatch," Liam said into his radio, his voice cold and controlled. "Officer Coleman here. I need animal control and backup at my location. Possible case of animal abuse and neglect." The driver's head snapped up and his voice wavered. "Wait, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like." Liam's patience had worn thin. "Then explain it to me," he snapped, "because right now it looks like you've been abusing this animal." The man's shoulders slumped and he muttered something under his breath, too quietly for Liam to catch. Before he could press any further, the man suddenly bolted, sprinting toward the nearby woods. "Stop!" Liam barked, immediately chasing after him. The man's speed was impressive, but Liam's training gave him the advantage. In moments, he tackled the man to the ground, holding him down as he called for backup once more. "Why did you run?" Liam demanded, his breath short. The man didn't answer, his face pressed into the dirt. By the time backup arrived, Liam had the man handcuffed and sitting on the side of the road. Another officer took over the questioning, but Liam's focus returned to the puppy. Gently, he opened the car door and spoke softly to the frightened animal. "Hey, buddy," he murmured. "It's okay now. You're safe." The puppy flinched but didn't resist as Liam carefully lifted it from the car. It was lighter than he expected, its tiny body limp with exhaustion. Liam's heart sank as he took in the full extent of the puppy's injuries. Bruised ribs, cuts on its paws, and a raw wound on its neck where the twine had dug in. His heart ached as he cradled the puppy against his chest, shielding it from the cold wind as he walked it to his patrol car. Moments later, animal control arrived. Liam briefed Sarah, the officer in charge. "This little guy needs immediate medical attention," he said. "I don't think he has much time." Sarah nodded solemnly. "We'll take him to the vet." "Thank you for stepping in, Officer Coleman," she said, gently placing the puppy into a carrier. Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was mixed with anger. How could someone treat an innocent creature so cruelly? Meanwhile, the driver was being taken into custody. During questioning, he confessed that the puppy hadn't been found on the side of the road. It was part of an illegal breeding operation he had been involved in. The operation had been shut down months earlier, but he had kept the puppy, intending to sell it. When he realized law enforcement was closing in, he panicked and tried to dispose of the evidence. Liam's blood boiled as he listened to the confession. This wasn't just a case of neglect, it was something much darker. But thanks to his quick thinking and the swift response from his fellow officers, the puppy had a chance at a new life. As Liam watched the animal control van disappear down the road, the fragile puppy safe inside, a mixture of emotions surged through him: relief, anger, and a fierce sense of purpose. But there was no time to linger on it. The driver's confession had uncovered something much bigger than just a single case of abuse. The operation was far from over. Back at the station, Liam reviewed the evidence from the stop. The man had been carrying a small notebook filled with cryptic notes, phone numbers, and addresses. Most of it seemed insignificant, but one entry stood out: Drop-off point, Warehouse Road. The note was hastily scrawled, as if written in a rush. Liam showed it to his captain, who immediately green-lighted further investigation. "This could be the lead we need to crack a larger operation," the captain said, his voice steady and serious. "But we'll need to tread carefully." Liam nodded in agreement. The next few hours were a whirlwind of coordination. He worked closely with detectives and animal control, piecing together the information they had so far. The driver, now in custody, had been reluctant at first, but eventually admitted under pressure that the warehouse mentioned in the notebook was a key meeting point for transactions linked to the breeding ring. Although most of the operation had been dismantled months earlier, there were still members at large, and Liam suspected they were operating underground. The following evening, Liam and his team were ready for a covert operation to investigate the warehouse. Moving under the cover of darkness, they parked their vehicles a block away, out of sight. As they drew closer to the building, a flickering light could be seen through the cracks in its decaying walls. Liam's pulse quickened. He signaled for the team to spread out, ensuring that no one could slip away unnoticed. The air was thick with tension, every footstep and rustling sound amplified in the eerie stillness of the night. "On my signal," Liam whispered into his radio. 3, 2, 1. The team surged forward, bursting through the entrance with flashlights cutting through the shadows. Inside, the scene was both infuriating and heartbreaking. Rows of cages lined the walls, each one containing animals in various states of neglect. Puppies huddled in corners, their eyes wide with terror, while older dogs barked weakly, their voices hoarse from exhaustion. The stench of filth and suffering hit Liam like a physical blow. His stomach churned as he surveyed the conditions. On the wall, a clipboard hung with details of transactions and shipments, evidence that could be key to unraveling the remaining network. As officers began freeing the animals, a sound echoed from above. Footsteps. Someone was still inside. Liam and another officer raced up the stairs, weapons drawn, the urgency in their movements a sharp contrast to the quiet tension below. At the top, they found a man frantically attempting to escape through a broken window. "Stop!" Liam commanded, his voice cutting through the space. The man froze, his hands rising in surrender. "Turn around slowly and get on the ground," Liam ordered, his tone unwavering. The man complied, and within moments, he was handcuffed and escorted downstairs. Back on the main floor, animal control teams had arrived, and the rescue effort was in full swing. The animals, though frightened, were being gently coaxed out of their cages and placed in waiting vehicles. As Liam scanned the room, his eyes landed on one puppy, a small black and white bundle of fur, staring up at him with wide, pleading eyes. It reminded him of the puppy he'd rescued just days before. His heart clenched. "Officer Coleman?" called Sarah, the animal control officer he'd worked with earlier. "We've got a full house here. Thanks for calling us in." Liam turned to her, his mind still on the puppy. "What's the status on the one from yesterday?" Sarah smiled, her voice warm with relief. "He's doing better. The vet says he's strong, but it'll take some time for him to fully recover." "You'd be surprised what kind of resilience these little ones have," Liam said, feeling a flicker of hope. At least one life had already been saved, and now, thanks to this operation, countless others had a chance at a new beginning. As the team secured the building and gathered evidence, Liam couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of the situation. The people involved in this operation had treated the animals as nothing more than commodities, showing no regard for the lives they were exploiting. It was a painful reminder of the darker side of human nature, but also of the crucial importance of standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. The rescued animals were transported to shelters and veterinary clinics, where they would receive the care they so desperately needed. Liam stayed behind to oversee the final stages of the operation, ensuring every piece of evidence was documented and every corner of the warehouse was thoroughly searched. By the time the operation came to an end, the first rays of dawn were beginning to touch the quiet streets of Ridgefield. The contrast between the chaos of the night and the peaceful morning was jarring. Liam sat in his patrol car, exhausted but with a sense of fulfillment settling over him. This was just the beginning of a much larger investigation, he knew, but for now, he allowed himself a brief moment of gratitude. He thought back to the puppy he had rescued, imagining it safe and warm in the hands of the veterinary team. That small, trembling life in the back seat had led to the rescue of so many others. It was a reminder that even the smallest actions could create a ripple effect that changed the world. A week had passed since the raid on the warehouse, and Liam had thrown himself into the investigation with renewed resolve. The evidence they'd gathered, ledgers, transaction records, and the testimony of the man arrested at the scene painted a disturbing picture of the scale of the illegal breeding operation. But it wasn't until he received a call from Sarah that things took an unexpected turn. "Liam," Sarah said, her voice urgent, "you need to come down to the clinic. It's about the puppy from the traffic stop." Liam's heart skipped a beat. "Is he okay?" he asked, already grabbing his keys and heading for the door. "He's fine, but there's something you need to see. I'll explain when you get here." 15 minutes later, Liam walked into the clinic, greeted by the familiar sounds of barking and the sharp scent of disinfectant. Sarah met him in the lobby, her expression a mix of seriousness and excitement. "Follow me," she said, leading him down the hallway to a private examination room. Inside, the puppy, now cleaner and looking a little healthier, was resting in a padded crate. But it wasn't the puppy that grabbed Liam's attention. It was the folder Sarah was holding. "What's going on?" Liam asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Sarah opened the folder and handed him a series of photographs. "We ran some tests on the puppy, standard procedure to check for any underlying health issues or genetic markers. And, well, we found something unusual." Liam studied the photographs closely. They showed the puppy's coat under special lighting, revealing faint markings on its skin, patterns that looked eerily like a brand or a tattoo. His stomach twisted. "What is this?" he asked, his voice quiet with disbelief. "It's a marker," Sarah explained, her tone grim. "We've seen this before in high-end animal trafficking rings. Some breeders use these marks to identify specific litters or bloodlines. It's like a signature." She flipped to another photo. "This one matches a ring we've been tracking for years. They're notorious for breeding rare and exotic animals, often in horrific conditions." Liam's grip tightened on the photos. "So you're saying this puppy is connected to a larger network?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly. And the fact that it ended up in that car means we're closer to that network than we've ever been." Liam's mind raced. The driver had claimed he was just trying to get rid of the puppy out of fear, but now it was clear. This wasn't just neglect. This puppy was part of something much bigger, a key piece of evidence in an operation far more sinister than they had imagined. "We need to track this," Liam said, his voice firm. "If this marker matches their network, there has to be a way to trace it back to the source." Sarah nodded. "I've already contacted a specialist, Dr. Elena Marquez. She's an expert in tracing these markers and decoding the networks behind them. She'll be here tomorrow." The next day, Liam met Dr. Marquez at the clinic. She examined the photos and confirmed what Sarah had suspected. "This marker is unique to a breeder we've been trying to shut down for years," Dr. Marquez explained. "They operate overseas but use intermediaries. The fact that this puppy is here means their network is active in this region." Liam's jaw tightened with determination. "Do we have any leads on where they might be operating locally?" Dr. Marquez hesitated. "The markers give us a starting point, but we'll need more evidence to pinpoint their current operations. However, I can tell you this. If this puppy is part of their network, then it's likely there are more animals being trafficked as we speak. That evening, Liam sat at his desk, going through the evidence once again. The weight of the realization that the puppy he had rescued was connected to such a vast illegal operation weighed heavily on him, but it also renewed his sense of purpose. This wasn't just about saving one animal, it was about taking down an entire system built on cruelty and exploitation. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He flipped through the file containing the notes and addresses from the driver's notebook. One address in particular stood out: Site B. It was circled in red ink with a note scribbled beside it: Last shipment. Liam's heart raced. Could this be another drop-off point, or maybe a storage location for trafficked animals? Without hesitation, he dialed the captain's number. "I think I found something," he said. "We need to check out this address." The next morning, Liam and a small team of officers arrived at the location. It was an unassuming property on the outskirts of town, a large rundown barn surrounded by overgrown grass. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the distant sound of barking echoed through the still morning air, sending a chill down Liam's spine. "Stay alert," Liam instructed his team as they approached the barn. Inside, the scene was eerily similar to the warehouse they had raided days earlier. Rows of cages lined the walls, some empty, others housing animals in various states of distress. But what was even more disturbing was the table in the center of the barn, cluttered with documents, photographs, and what appeared to be a ledger detailing sales and shipments. Liam scanned the pages, his stomach sinking as he recognized several addresses, locations spread across multiple states, all tied to the trafficking network. "This is it," Liam said, his voice laced with determination. "This is the break we've been waiting for." The discovery of the barn and its contents rocked Liam and his team. As they carefully documented the evidence and rescued the animals, the reality of what they had uncovered began to settle in. This wasn't just a small-time operation. It was a sprawling network that extended far beyond Ridgefield. The ledger they had found offered the first concrete glimpse into its vast scope. Back at the station, Liam sat with the captain and the lead detectives, reviewing the evidence. The ledger was filled with cryptic codes and symbols, making it clear that whoever ran this operation was highly skilled at covering their tracks. But a few entries stood out: references to Shipment Alpha and Client 7, along with a date and time scheduled just 3 days away. "This could be our shot," Liam said, tapping the ledger. "If we can figure out where this shipment is happening, we might be able to catch them red-handed." The captain nodded. "It's a good lead, but we need to be careful. Whoever's behind this operation won't go down without a fight." Over the next 48 hours, the team worked tirelessly to decode the ledger and put the pieces together. Dr. Elena Marquez returned to help, using her expertise to cross-reference the codes with known trafficking patterns. Her analysis revealed that Shipment Alpha likely referred to a collection point near the state border, a secluded area often used for discreet exchanges. Meanwhile, Sarah, the animal control officer, worked alongside Liam to ensure the rescued animals from the barn were getting the care they needed. Among them was the puppy from the original traffic stop, now affectionately named Chance by the clinic staff. Despite his rough start, Chance showed incredible resilience, his playful energy offering a small spark of hope in an otherwise grim situation. One evening, Liam visited the clinic, exhausted but driven. He crouched down beside Chance's crate and let the puppy lick his hand. "Ah, you started all this, didn't you?" Liam whispered, a small smile tugging at his lips. "We're going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else." As the day of the scheduled shipment drew closer, tensions ran high. The team devised a plan to intercept the operation at the drop-off point, coordinating with local and federal authorities to ensure they had the resources necessary for a successful sting. Liam was at the helm, his resolve unwavering. On the morning of the operation, Liam gathered his team for a final briefing. "We've got one shot at this," he said, his voice calm but firm. "These people have slipped through the cracks for too long. Let's make sure that ends today." The drop-off point was a desolate stretch of land near an abandoned quarry, surrounded by dense woods. The team arrived hours in advance, setting up surveillance and positioning themselves for the takedown. Hidden among the trees, Liam watched through binoculars, his pulse quickening with every passing minute. Finally, a convoy of trucks appeared on the horizon, their headlights cutting through the early morning fog. Liam signaled to his team, everyone ready to move at a moment's notice. The trucks rolled to a stop near a cluster of storage containers, and men began unloading cages, some filled with animals, others ominously empty. "This is it," Liam whispered into his radio. "Everyone in position. Wait for my signal." As the men continued their work, another vehicle arrived, a sleek black SUV. A well-dressed man stepped out, exuding calm authority. He approached the workers, barking orders and inspecting the cages. Liam's instincts told him this was someone important, likely a key player in the operation. The tension in the air was palpable as Liam gave the order to move. Officers sprang from their hiding spots, weapons drawn, shouting commands for the suspects to freeze. Chaos erupted as some of the men attempted to flee, but the perimeter teams quickly apprehended them. Liam focused on the man from the SUV, who stood frozen for a moment before trying to retreat into the vehicle. "Stop!" Liam shouted, his voice cutting through the turmoil. The man hesitated, then slowly raised his hands in surrender. As the suspects were detained and the area secured, Liam's team began inspecting the cargo. The animals, though frightened and malnourished, were alive. It was a small victory in an otherwise grim operation. Among the cages, Liam froze. There, in one of the crates, was a litter of puppies, all bearing the same faint markings on their coats as Chance. It was a chilling reminder of the countless lives caught in this web of cruelty. Back at the station, the aftermath of the operation unfolded. The suspects were interrogated, their connections to the trafficking network slowly coming to light. The ledger, combined with evidence from the barn and the drop-off point, provided a roadmap for dismantling the operation, piece by piece. For Liam, the work was far from over. The rescued animals needed care. The case demanded further investigation, and the network's leaders were still out there. But for the first time, he felt a surge of momentum, a belief that they could truly make a difference. Though the drop-off point raid had been a success, Liam knew this was just the tip of the iceberg. The suspects detained at the scene revealed little during questioning. Their loyalty to the operation was unwavering. But the evidence collected, particularly the ledger, pointed to a much broader and more dangerous network. One detail from the raid kept nagging at Liam: the litter of puppies marked with the same symbol as Chance. Though relieved they had been rescued, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that their existence hinted at something far darker. What if these animals were more than just victims of illegal breeding? He wondered aloud. What if they were part of an experiment or something bigger? The next day, Dr. Elena Marquez visited the station with new findings about the markings on the puppies. "Liam," she began, laying out several documents on the table. "These symbols aren't random. They appear to be part of a coded system used by this network." Liam leaned in, studying the papers. "What kind of system?" Dr. Marquez pointed to one of the symbols. "This specific marker indicates lineage. It's common in high-end animal trafficking rings where certain breeds are bred for exclusive buyers. But this one, she gestured to another, more intricate symbol, is different. It suggests genetic alteration or enhancement. Liam's eyes widened. Are you saying these animals have been tampered with? Dr. Marquez nodded gravely. It's highly likely. Genetic testing on Chance and the other puppies revealed slight anomalies. Nothing that threatens their health, but enough to suggest they were being bred for very specific traits. Strength, endurance, intelligence. It's as if someone was trying to create a super breed. The revelation opened a whole new chapter in the investigation. If the trafficking network was involved in genetic experimentation, their operations had expanded beyond simple breeding and selling. They were attempting to create something entirely new. This new twist raised the stakes, and Liam knew they couldn't afford to lose momentum now. But the investigation soon faced its first major setback. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the suspects detained during the drop-off point raid refused to cooperate any further. Their silence was frustrating, but not unexpected. It was clear they feared whoever was really behind this operation more than they feared the law. Liam's captain suggested focusing on the evidence instead. If we can't get them to talk, we'll let the evidence do the talking, he said, assigning a forensic team to analyze the seized items. The team worked around the clock, uncovering a list of encrypted contacts and shipments that hinted at multiple locations across the country. But the deeper Liam delved into the case, the more it took a toll on him. The images of the animals, many malnourished, terrified, and in pain, haunted him. Yet amidst the darkness, there were moments of light. Chance, the puppy who had unknowingly sparked this entire investigation, was thriving under Sarah and the clinic's care. Liam made it a point to visit often, finding comfort in the puppy's playful energy. During one of these visits, Sarah shared a moment of quiet reflection. "You know," she said, scratching behind Chance's ears, "this little guy has become a symbol of hope for everyone here. It's amazing how one act of kindness, stopping that car, led to all this." Liam smiled, his heart lightening for a brief moment. "He's a fighter," he said softly. "And he reminds me why we're doing this." Then the investigation took an unexpected turn. Liam received a tip from a confidential informant. The tip claimed that a high-level meeting of trafficking network members was scheduled to take place in a remote warehouse, 2 states over. The meeting was said to be about the future of their operations in light of the recent raids. Though risky, unverified, and potentially a trap, Liam knew they couldn't ignore it. After consulting with his captain, they decided to proceed cautiously, assembling a small team to surveil the meeting and gather intelligence. On the night of the operation, Liam and his team arrived at the warehouse under the cover of darkness. The building was dilapidated, surrounded by dense vegetation, and eerily quiet. From their vantage point, they watched as vehicles began arriving, each bringing individuals who exuded an unmistakable air of authority. Through binoculars, Liam observed the gathering inside. A group of men and women, all dressed in sharp suits, sat around a large table, discussing documents and maps. Among them was a man who immediately caught Liam's attention. A man with a commanding presence, whom Liam recognized from a photograph found in the barn during the initial raid. "That's him," Liam whispered into his radio. "The one from the ledger. He's running this operation." The team remained hidden, documenting everything they could. But as the meeting progressed, things took a dangerous turn. One of the traffickers stepped outside for a cigarette, his eyes scanning the perimeter. Liam and his team held their breath, praying their cover wouldn't be blown. The man's gaze lingered near their position, and for a long moment, it seemed like he might spot them. But after a tense pause, he shrugged and returned inside. The close call was a stark reminder of the risks they were taking, but it also reinforced their determination. As the meeting concluded, the traffickers began to disperse. Liam's team captured photographs of the vehicle's license plates and gathered crucial evidence to track their movements. Back at the station, the information was compiled into a comprehensive report, setting the stage for a broader investigation. As Liam pored over the details, the weight of the case grew heavier on him. The discovery of genetic experimentation, combined with the sheer cruelty toward the animals, had stirred a storm of emotions within him. This wasn't just about enforcing the law anymore. It was about morality, humanity, and the responsibility he felt to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Late one evening, Liam found himself at the clinic again, sitting quietly by Chance's crate. The puppy had visibly grown stronger, his playful demeanor a far cry from the vulnerable creature he'd been when Liam first encountered him. Liam reached into the crate and gently scratched behind Chance's ears. "You have no idea how much you've changed everything," he murmured, his voice soft. "Because of you, we're finally getting closer to the truth." Sarah, who had been organizing supplies nearby, overheard him and smiled warmly. "You know," she said, pulling up a chair beside him, "I think Chance was meant to find you." She scratched Chance behind the ears. "Sometimes the smallest beings have the biggest impact." Liam chuckled, though his mind lingered on his conflicting emotions. He couldn't shake the lingering guilt beneath his gratitude, guilt for not stopping this network sooner, for the lives already lost, and for the weight of the responsibility now resting heavily on his shoulders. As the investigation progressed, tensions within the team began to surface. The enormity of the case, combined with the pressure to dismantle the operation, was taking its toll. One afternoon, during a strategy meeting, tempers flared. "We're chasing ghosts," one detective snapped, slamming his fist on the table. "We've got fragments of evidence and no solid leads. Meanwhile, these people are probably moving their operations as we speak." Liam remained calm, but firm. "Every piece of evidence we've gathered points to something bigger. If we back off now, we lose the only chance we have to stop them." Another officer interjected, "And what if this informant tip was a setup? What if we're walking into a trap? Next time, we're putting our lives on the line based on assumptions." The room fell silent as Liam's gaze swept across the team. "I get it," he said finally, his voice steady. "This isn't easy, but think about what's at stake. Those animals, the lives ruined by this operation. If we don't act, who will?" His words resonated deeply with the team. Though tension lingered, they rallied behind him. They couldn't afford to let fear or doubt cloud their judgment, not when the stakes were so high. Amid the chaos of the investigation, Liam also found himself struggling personally. His late nights and long hours were taking a toll on his relationship with his younger sister Maggie, who often babysat his daughter Emma. Maggie had been supportive, but her patience was beginning to wear thin. "You're barely home, Liam," Maggie said one evening, handing Emma over to him. "Emma misses you, and honestly, so do I." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Maggie. I'm sorry. This case, it's bigger than I thought. I'm trying to balance everything, but it's taking over your life," she interrupted. "I get that your job is important, but you can't lose yourself in it. Emma needs her dad, not just a hero." Her words hit him harder than he expected. That night, as he tucked Emma into bed, the weight of it all pressed down on him. The case demanded so much of him, but his family needed him too. For the first time in weeks, he began to question if he was stretching himself too thin. The emotional toll of the case also weighed heavily on him. Chance's recovery was a source of hope, but many of the other rescued animals were still struggling. One case in particular haunted him: the story of a dog named Luna who had been found severely malnourished and scarred. Despite the team's best efforts, Luna remained distant, her trust in humans shattered. Sarah kept Liam updated during his visits, her voice tinged with sadness. "Luna's case breaks my heart," she shared one evening. "She's physically healing, but emotionally, I don't know if she'll ever recover. It's like she's given up." Liam watched as Luna lay curled in the corner of her crate, her eyes distant and unfocused. "She's been through hell," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "But she's still here. That says something, doesn't it?" Sarah nodded, her expression tinged with sadness. "It does. But I just wish there was more we could do for her." Their conversation left Liam with a mix of inspiration and helplessness. For every victory they scored, there were countless scars, both visible and hidden, that couldn't be undone. It was a stark reminder of how high the stakes really were. As the team prepared for their next move, Liam wrestled with the emotional weight of the case. The pressure, the guilt, and the uncertainty were constant companions. But there was also hope. The animals they had rescued, the lives they had saved. It all fueled his determination to see this through to the end. One evening, as Liam sat alone in his office reviewing the case files, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. It was a photo of Chance, the puppy now sitting proudly with a small chew toy in his mouth. The caption read, "Your little hero, ready for action." Liam smiled, the photo a much-needed reminder of why he was fighting so hard. Even as doubt and fear threatened to overwhelm him, he wasn't alone. There were lives depending on him, both human and animal, and he wouldn't let them down. As Liam and his team pushed forward with the investigation, the stakes grew higher. The informant's tip about the network's leadership had provided a valuable lead, but with each step closer to the truth, the danger became more palpable. The traffickers were not only elusive, they were ruthless. Their operations stretched far beyond anything Liam had initially imagined. Late one evening, as Liam sifted through the evidence in his office, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from the forensic team, a photograph of a symbol, one that had been engraved on the inside of a metal container found at the drop-off point. Liam's stomach sank as he recognized it, the same symbol that had been tattooed onto the ears of the rescued puppies. The accompanying note was brief. The engraving matches markings found in a raid on an exotic animal trafficking ring 5 years ago. The case went cold after the suspects disappeared. Liam leaned back in his chair, the weight of the discovery settling heavily over him. This wasn't just about genetic experimentation or high-end trafficking. It was about an organization with a long history of evading justice. And now they were back, operating on an even larger scale. The next morning, Liam gathered his team to discuss the new findings. "This symbol ties our case to a previous operation that went cold," he said, projecting the image onto the screen. "The traffickers vanished without a trace, but now they're back, and they're more organized than ever." Maria, one of the detectives, raised her hand. "Do we have any idea how they've managed to stay under the radar for so long?" Liam nodded grimly. "According to the old case files, they use a network of safe houses and constantly move their operations to avoid detection. They're also incredibly secretive. Only a handful of people at the top know the full scope of their network." Jake, another detective, spoke up. "If we're dealing with the same group, how do we know they won't just disappear again?" Liam's jaw tightened. "We don't. Which is why we need to act fast and hit them where it hurts." Meanwhile, back at the clinic, Sarah noticed something unusual during one of her routine checks on the rescued puppies. Chance, who had been thriving in recent weeks, seemed agitated. He paced restlessly back and forth in his enclosure, whining softly and occasionally glancing toward the window. "What's wrong, buddy?" Sarah murmured, kneeling beside him. She reached out to soothe him, but Chance remained restless, his ears perked, and his gaze fixed on something outside. Later that evening, as Sarah was locking up for the night, she thought she saw a shadow move across the parking lot. Her heart raced, and she quickly scanned the area, but it was empty. Shaking off the unease, she dismissed it as her imagination, until she found a folded piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper of her car. The note was short and chilling. "Stay out of it." The threat sent a ripple of fear through Sarah, but she refused to back down. The animals in her care depended on her, and she wasn't about to let some faceless criminal intimidate her into silence. She immediately called Liam, who arrived at the clinic within minutes. Liam examined the note, his expression darkening. "They're trying to scare us off," he said, his voice low and steady. "Which means we're getting closer." Sarah hesitated. "What if they're watching the clinic? What if the animals aren't safe here?" Liam placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll increase security. I'll have officers stationed outside around the clock. But we can't let them win. Sarah, these animals are evidence, and they're counting on us." As the team intensified their efforts, they uncovered another critical piece of the puzzle. Forensic analysis of the ledger revealed coded entries that, when deciphered, pointed to a shipment scheduled to arrive at a private airstrip in a nearby state. The shipment was listed under a shell company with ties to the old trafficking case. Liam and his captain quickly formulated a plan to intercept the shipment. The operation would be risky, requiring precise timing and coordination, but it was their best chance to strike a major blow to the network. On the night of the operation, the team arrived at the airstrip under the cover of darkness. The area was heavily guarded, with security personnel patrolling the perimeter and bright floodlights illuminating the tarmac. Liam's heart pounded as he and his team took their positions, waiting for the signal to move in. As the plane touched down and taxied to a halt, a convoy of unmarked trucks pulled onto the tarmac. Liam watched through binoculars as a group of men began unloading large crates from the plane, each one marked with the same symbol they had seen before. "Stand by," Liam whispered into his radio, his grip tightening on the receiver. "Wait for my signal." The team held their breath as the crates were loaded onto the trucks. Just as the last crate was secured, Liam gave the order, "Go, go, go." The next few minutes were a blur of chaos and adrenaline. Officers swarmed the airstrip, shouting orders as the traffickers scrambled to escape. Several suspects were apprehended, but others managed to flee into the night. As the dust settled, Liam's attention shifted to the crates. Inside, they found more puppies, some weak and malnourished, others barking in fear. But what caught Liam's attention was a separate crate, larger than the others, containing an animal he had never seen before. Its fur was an unusual shade of silver, its eyes sharp and intelligent. Liam's breath caught in his throat. "What is this?" he muttered under his breath. The silver-coated creature was immediately transported to the clinic, where Sarah and her team were ready to receive it. Liam, still processing the events of the night, followed closely behind, his mind racing with questions. The creature didn't resemble any species he had ever encountered, and its piercing gaze seemed to hold an unsettling level of intelligence. Once the animal was safely secured in an isolated enclosure, Sarah began her examination. "I've never seen anything like this," she said, her voice a mix of awe and concern. Its physical features are unique, almost otherworldly. This can't be a naturally occurring species. Liam stood nearby, watching intently. Do you think it's another result of their experiments? It's possible, Sarah replied cautiously, checking the animal's vitals. But I'd need to run tests to know for sure. Despite its unsettling appearance, the animal remained eerily calm, observing its surroundings with an almost human-like awareness. Its behavior only deepened the mystery, leaving both Liam and Sarah with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, at the police station, the suspects apprehended at the airstrip were being interrogated. Maria, one of the lead detectives, focused on a man who appeared to be in charge of the operation. His silence was maddening, but Maria pressed on, using every tool at her disposal to break him. "We know what you're doing," Maria said firmly, placing photos of the crates and the rescued animals on the table in front of the man. "And we know about the experiments. This isn't just trafficking. It's something far worse." The man smirked, his defiance clear in his posture. "You don't know half of what's going on," he replied cryptically. "And even if you did, you couldn't stop it." Maria's frustration grew, but she kept her cool. "Maybe not yet," she said, her voice steady. "But we're getting closer, and when we do, you'll regret not cooperating." For a split second, a flicker of unease crossed the man's face. Maria noticed it immediately and leaned in. "You're not as untouchable as you think. We've already disrupted one shipment. How many more are you willing to lose before your bosses turn on you?" Her words seemed to strike a nerve, but the man quickly regained his composure. "You'll never find them," he sneered, leaning back in his chair. "They're always one step ahead." Back at the clinic, Sarah's tests on the silver-coated animal revealed shocking results. "Liam, you need to see this," she called, motioning for him to join her at the lab. On the screen, genetic data flashed by, highlighting anomalies Sarah had never seen before. "This animal's DNA has been manipulated," she explained, her voice tinged with concern. "But it's not just a hybrid. It's something entirely new. Someone engineered this creature. Someone with a deep understanding of genetics and biology." Liam's jaw tightened. This isn't just about profit anymore. This is about power, control. If they can create something like this, what else are they capable of? Sarah nodded, her expression grim. "And why? What's the end game here? Are they trying to build a market for exotic pets, or is this about something far larger?" The questions hung heavily in the air, amplifying the gravity of their discovery. As the days passed, the bond between Liam and Sarah grew stronger. Their shared dedication to the case and mutual respect for each other's skills forged a powerful partnership. Late one night, as they reviewed their findings, Liam opened up about the emotional toll the case was taking on him. "This is the hardest case I've ever worked on," he admitted. "Every time we get closer to the truth, it feels like the stakes get higher, and I can't help but wonder if we're doing enough." Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're doing everything you can, Liam, and because of you, these animals have a chance. Don't lose sight of that." Her words gave him a renewed sense of purpose, reminding him of why he'd taken on this fight in the first place. Meanwhile, Chance, the rescued puppy, continued to thrive at the clinic. His playful nature and unwavering loyalty had endeared him to everyone. But it was his connection to the silver-coated animal that surprised them most. Whenever Chance was near the creature's enclosure, his demeanor shifted. He became calm, almost protective, as if he recognized the animal as a kindred spirit. Sarah watched their interactions with fascination. "It's like they share a bond," she remarked. "I don't know how, but Chance seems to sense something about this creature." Liam watched the puppy with a mixture of pride and curiosity. "Maybe he knows more than we do," he said with a small smile. "He's been a hero from the start." As the investigation progressed, Liam's team uncovered another crucial lead: a hidden facility linked to the trafficking network, located in a remote area. Surveillance had revealed heavily armed guards and a constant flow of unmarked vehicles, confirming its significance. "This is it," Liam said during a briefing, his voice low with determination. "This is where they're holding the animals, and possibly where they're conducting their experiments. If we can take this place down, we can dismantle their entire operation." The team prepared for what would undoubtedly be their most dangerous mission yet. The risks were high, but the potential reward, saving countless animals and bringing the traffickers to justice, was worth it. The plan to raid the facility was finalized. Liam and his team worked tirelessly to map out every detail, knowing they had only one shot to strike. The facility wasn't just a holding ground for animals, it was the epicenter of the trafficking operation, the key to uncovering the full scope of their criminal network. The night of the operation was tense. The team, clad in tactical gear, moved silently through the dense forest surrounding the facility. Liam led the group, his focus sharp as they approached their target. Drones buzzed overhead, providing real-time surveillance of the compound, which was guarded by heavily armed personnel. Maria's voice crackled through Liam's earpiece. "We've identified multiple entry points, but the guards are heavily armed. We'll need to move fast and hit them by surprise." "Understood," Liam replied, turning to his team. "Remember, our priority is the animals. Secure the facility, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary." The team split into two groups. One advanced to the main building, while the other positioned themselves to cover any potential escape routes. Liam's group reached the main entrance, where they disabled the security cameras and cut through the heavy steel lock. As they entered, the sight before them was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Rows of cages lined the walls, each one containing frightened, malnourished animals, some rare species, others the results of twisted genetic experiments, creatures that defied natural explanation. The silver-coated animal from the airstrip was no longer an anomaly. Dozens of similar hybrids were confined within the facility. Liam's chest tightened as he scanned the room. "We need to get them out of here," he said, his voice resolute. The team began unlocking the cages, but suddenly, a loud alarm blared, shattering the quiet. "Fall back to defensive positions," Liam shouted, drawing his weapon. The team quickly formed a perimeter around the animals, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Gunfire erupted outside as the second group engaged the guards. Liam's heart raced as he radioed Maria. "What's the status?" "We've got them pinned down, but they're calling for reinforcements," she replied. "You need to hurry inside the facility." The situation grew increasingly desperate. The animals, already terrified, began to panic. The silver-coated creatures thrashed against their cages, their cries echoing through the building. One of Liam's officers, Jake, approached him. "We can't hold them off forever. We need to get the animals out now." Sarah, who had joined the raid to provide medical support, worked tirelessly to calm the animals. She focused on Chance, who had been brought along as a morale booster for the team. The puppy, sensing the tension, stayed close to Sarah, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "It's okay, Chance," Sarah whispered, stroking his fur. "We'll get through this." But as the guards outside closed in, Liam realized they were running out of time. "We need a diversion," he said urgently, glancing at Jake. "If we can draw them away from the building, we might have a chance to evacuate the animals." Jake nodded. "I'll take a few men and create a distraction. You focus on getting the animals to safety." As Jake and his team moved to execute the plan, Liam turned to Sarah. "Can you handle this?" he asked, his voice full of urgency. "I can," Sarah replied, determination in her eyes. "We'll get them out." With the team working together, the dangerous task of moving the animals out of the facility began. The leader of the traffickers hesitated, his confidence clearly shaken. Before he could muster a response, the shrill sound of police sirens tore through the air, causing him to stiffen. Maria and her team had arrived. Their vehicles screeched to a halt, and officers poured out, weapons drawn. The traffickers quickly realized they were outmatched. Some dropped their weapons and surrendered, while others turned and fled into the dense forest. The police moved swiftly, apprehending those who remained, securing the area and clearing the roadblock. Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He turned to Luna, who stood motionless, her gaze locked on the fleeing men. "You saved us," he murmured, his voice thick with gratitude. Luna, as always, simply stared back, her intelligent eyes betraying a quiet understanding. With the road now clear, the convoy resumed its journey. Maria climbed into the lead truck, the confiscated ledger from the raid in her hands. "This is the break we needed," she said, showing Liam the coded entries. "It's going to take time, but we'll crack it." Liam nodded, his focus returning to the road ahead. "We've come this far," he said resolutely. "We'll see it through." As the convoy arrived at the wildlife sanctuary, the animals were unloaded with care and ushered into their new enclosures. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly, ensuring each animal felt comfortable and safe in its new home. But Luna refused to leave Liam's side, her loyalty unwavering, her presence a quiet force beside him. Inside the sanctuary, the staff, along with Sarah and Liam, took a moment of reflection as they watched the animals explore their new surroundings. It had been a hard-fought victory, but they knew the battle against the trafficking network was far from over. In the control room, they gathered around a large monitor displaying live footage of the animals adjusting to their new homes. Luna paced the edge of her enclosure, her sharp eyes scanning every movement. Chance sat nearby, his tail wagging as if trying to comfort Luna from a distance. Maria spread the pages of the ledger across the table, her voice low but determined. "This book contains years of transactions, names, locations, payment records, everything we need to dismantle this operation." Liam leaned over the pages, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Can't we trace the money trail?" he asked. "If we follow the finances, we might find the ringleader." Maria nodded, her expression serious. "That's the plan, but these codes are sophisticated. We'll need help from forensic accountants." Sarah, who had been quietly reviewing her notes, looked up. "What about the animals? Luna, in particular. What if there's more to her than we realize?" Just then, Dr. Reeves, the sanctuary's head veterinarian, entered the room holding a clipboard. "I've just finished the preliminary tests on Luna," he said, his tone grave. "Her DNA shows significant genetic anomalies. It's as if she's been engineered. Her physical traits, her resilience, her behavior, everything about her is unnatural." Liam's eyes narrowed as he processed the information. "Are you saying someone created her?" Dr. Reeves nodded gravely. "That's my conclusion. Luna isn't just a product of nature. She's a deliberate experiment." The weight of his words sent a chill through the room. Liam's jaw clenched as he processed the implications. If this trafficking network is involved in genetic engineering, the stakes are even higher than we thought. Before they could fully digest this new revelation, an alert sounded on the sanctuary's security system. A perimeter camera had detected movement. The screen flickered, showing a group of unidentified figures approaching under the cover of darkness. Maria's eyes widened. They're here. They've come to take back what we've rescued. Liam sprang into action, issuing orders to the sanctuary staff. Secure the animals. Lock down the enclosures. Maria, contact the local authorities. We can't let them get anywhere near Luna or the others. The sanctuary transformed into a fortress as the staff bolted gates and reinforced enclosures. Liam and Maria armed themselves with tranquilizer guns, ready to defend the sanctuary if necessary. Sarah stayed with the animals, her calming presence offering them some semblance of peace amidst the growing tension. Luna, sensing the impending danger, began to grow restless. Her pacing became more frantic, her sharp eyes darting toward the perimeter. Chance, ever loyal, stood by her side, his small frame bristling with determination. The intruders breached the outer gate, their intentions clear as they advanced toward Luna's enclosure. Liam and Maria intercepted them, their tranquilizer guns raised. "Stop right there," Liam commanded, his voice firm. "This is a protected sanctuary. You're trespassing on private property." The leader of the group, a tall man with a cold demeanor, stepped forward, his confidence unwavering. "We're here for what's ours," he said arrogantly. "Step aside, and no one gets hurt." "You've got it wrong," Liam replied, his grip tightening on his weapon. "These animals are under our protection now. You're not taking them anywhere." The standoff escalated as the intruders ignored Liam's warnings and moved closer. Just as the tension reached its peak, Luna let out a fierce, guttural growl that echoed through the sanctuary. The sound was both a warning and a declaration of defiance. Luna's display of power gave the intruders pause, their confidence faltering. One of them muttered, "What kind of creature is that?" Seizing the moment, Liam fired a tranquilizer dart at the leader, striking him in the shoulder. The man staggered, his expression twisting into a snarl. "You'll regret that," he hissed. But before he could retaliate, the unmistakable sound of police sirens filled the air. Maria's call for backup had been answered. Law enforcement officers swarmed the sanctuary, surrounding the intruders and cutting off their escape. The confrontation ended swiftly as the intruders were apprehended and escorted away in handcuffs. The threat was neutralized. Liam, Maria, and the sanctuary staff watched as the situation calmed. A collective sigh of relief swept through the group. At Luna's enclosure, the silver-coated creature had quieted, her intelligent eyes watching the scene unfold. Liam approached the enclosure, crouching down to meet her gaze. "You saved us again," he said softly. "Thank you." Luna tilted her head, her eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that sent a shiver down Liam's spine. Chance barked happily, wagging his tail as if echoing Liam's gratitude. As the police escorted the intruders away, Maria approached Liam. "We've got everything we need to take this network down," she said, holding up the ledger. Liam nodded, his resolve growing stronger with each passing moment. "They've underestimated us, but we're not stopping until this entire operation is dismantled." The sanctuary staff began to relax as the immediate danger passed. Sarah joined Liam and Maria, her face lighting up with a tired but genuine smile. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. Liam looked at Luna, her form a symbol of everything they had fought for. "Luna and the others are safe, for now," he replied, though his voice carried the understanding that the fight wasn't over. "But this isn't the end." As the first rays of dawn broke over the sanctuary, a sense of calm settled in after the chaotic night. The staff worked to repair the minor damages caused during the intrusion, while the rescued animals adjusted to their new environment. However, in the control room, the atmosphere remained charged with anticipation. Liam, Maria, and Sarah huddled over the ledger, decoding the names and transactions that pointed to the vast web of the trafficking network. Each entry unveiled a horrifying reality. Exotic animals traded across borders, hidden facilities in remote locations, and the names of powerful individuals complicit in the operation. Meanwhile, Luna remained the center of attention. The silver-coated creature, now fully alert and active, seemed to sense that the worst had passed. She moved gracefully within her enclosure, her keen eyes scanning everything around her. Chance stayed close by, wagging his tail as if reassuring her that she was safe. Liam stepped out of the control room to check on Luna. As he approached her enclosure, Luna came forward, her piercing gaze locking onto his. She pressed her head against the fence, a gesture of trust that left Liam momentarily speechless. "You're incredible, you know that?" he said softly, reaching out to gently touch her head through the bars. "We're going to make sure no one ever hurts you again." Back in the control room, Maria's phone buzzed with a message from the authorities. "They've identified the ringleader," she announced, her tone both triumphant and serious. "It's a high-ranking official in a neighboring country. This goes deeper than we thought." Liam returned just in time to hear the news. "What's our next move?" he asked. "We'll coordinate with international agencies to take him down," Maria replied. "But we need to act fast. If he gets wind of this, he'll disappear." As the team discussed their plan, Dr. Reeves entered with new findings about Luna. "We've completed her genetic analysis," he began, his voice filled with awe. "She's not just a rare species. Luna's DNA contains markers of deliberate genetic engineering. But there's more. She carries traits from multiple predator species. Whoever created her was attempting something unprecedented." The revelation hit the team like a thunderbolt. Luna wasn't just an ordinary rescue. She was evidence of illegal experimentation with potentially global implications. While the team processed this new information, a commotion erupted outside. One of the sanctuary workers rushed in, breathless. "You need to see this." Liam and Maria hurried to the observation deck, where a crowd of reporters and cameras had gathered at the sanctuary gates. The news of the raid and the discovery of Luna had leaked, and the world was now watching. "We can't hide this anymore," Maria said, her voice steady. "We need to control the narrative." Realizing the importance of transparency, Liam decided to hold a press conference. Within the hour, journalists from across the region were seated, ready to hear the story. Liam stepped forward, his nerves evident but his resolve unshaken. "Last night, we faced a direct threat to the safety of this sanctuary and the animals we've sworn to protect," he began. "But thanks to the bravery of this team and the incredible bond we've formed with these creatures, we overcame it." He gestured toward Luna's enclosure, where the silver-coated animal stood tall, her presence commanding respect. "This is Luna," he continued. "She's not just a symbol of what we're fighting for. She's living proof of the lengths some will go to exploit and harm the natural world." Maria took the stage next, holding up the ledger. "This document contains the names and operations of an international trafficking ring. We're working with authorities to dismantle it and bring those responsible to justice, but we need your help, your voices, your support, to ensure that these crimes are exposed and never repeated." The crowd erupted into applause, their initial skepticism replaced by admiration and determination. The press conference turned the tide of public opinion, rallying support for the sanctuary and its mission. As the journalists dispersed, Luna let out a low melodic growl that almost sounded like a purr. It was a sound of contentment, a signal that she too understood that the tide had turned in her favor. That evening, as Liam, Maria, and Sarah Gathered by Luna's enclosure, Chance sat at their feet, his tail wagging. "We've achieved something incredible," Sarah said, her voice tinged with emotion. "But there's still so much work to do," Liam replied, his gaze focused on Luna. "This is just the beginning." As the stars filled the night sky, Liam stood alone by Luna's enclosure, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Luna approached the fence, her silver fur glowing in the moonlight. She pressed her nose gently against his hand. In that moment, man and creature shared a bond that transcended words, a mutual understanding of resilience, trust, and the fight for a better world. The sanctuary had become a symbol of hope and resilience, drawing donations, volunteers, and global attention to the cause. And Luna, with her unique story and majestic presence, had become the face of that mission. Her story was no longer just about survival. It was a testament to the unbreakable bond between humans and the natural world. Subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories of resilience and hope, and don't forget to share this video with friends and family. Your support helps us continue this vital work, one life at a time. Let's keep the flame of compassion burning brightly, because together we can make miracles happen. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.